No, Mr. Chairman, it was a point of privilege because the Honorable Deputy Speaker Chense, with all due respect, tama naman po yung sinabi ni Honorable Chense. Kung tayo po dito yung nagwi-witch hunt, huwag natin ituloy. At
Halika na sa IFS. Halika na, halika na, halika na. Kamusta na? Nahinginip ka ba? Nababagot dahil walang magawa. Halika na sa aming page, subukan mong bumisita. Sa IFS, ikaw ang aming bida. Gusto mo mamawit ka?
hindi naman po nung kami nagtanong, malinaw yung pag-uusap. Sa dokumento ng DBP, sa dokumento ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, dalawang ahensya po yung magkaiba. Walang certificate of eligibility yung pagkakapasok ng mga loans. Magmula sa DBP, BSP, bago sila pinasok sa special purpose vehicle. Walang certificate of eligibility. Ang sinasabi po ng DBP, ang kanilang pananaw, legal. Dahil kahit walang certificate of eligibility, pwede. Ang pananaw ko po, at ito naman binanggit din ng BSP, hindi pwede. Pangalawa, Mr. Chairman, makikita sa loan documents ng DBP. Hindi na po yung loan documents, yun na lang po sa minutes. Na dalawa dyan, o isa, sa mga loans na yan na ibinigay bago po ipasok sa SPAB, ang walang collateral. Yan po yung may dokumento, nandyan sa minutes ng Development Bank of the Philippines. Pinag-aralan po yan ng legal bago ipinasok. At makikita po dyan. And if I may ask Attorney Adjong, di po ba dapat nagkaroon ng joint security, but before the issuance of the DBP loan to Maynilad, there should have been a waiver under the JSS. Tama po ba?
Honorable Attorney, you may reply.
May I seek clarification on the document?
Joint and solitary signature for Maynilad.
I have not seen the document, Mr. Chair, but as part of our commitment, we will go into the
Yes.
record.
Maybe, Mr. Chairman, we can ask Mr. Arbosa, our president of DBP, who is here with us right now. If Mr. Chairman,
Can we go to your second round?
no, Mr. Chairman, it was a point of privilege because the Honorable Deputy Speaker Chense, with all due respect, tama naman po yung sinabi ni Honorable Chense, kung tayo po dito yung nagwi-witch hunt, huwag natin ituloy. At nakakaya naman sa DBP at sa Lopez Group. Pero kung mayroon naman pong dokumento at may kakulangan sa dokumento, dapat po natin pag-usapan. Tama po yung sinabi ni Honorable Chense, tinanong po niya kanina, nagkaroon pa ng benepisyo ang mga Lopezes. Tama ba, Atty. Adjong? From 9 billion, naging 3 billion na lang ang babayaran nila.
The 9 point,
Total yan po. Yes.
the total for all
So if I put it in
2,000 companies.
I agree. So if we put it at 70%, at 1.6 billion, ang binayaran po na lang nila siguro is somewhere in the vicinity of 500 million. Kung i-across the board po natin, yung naging discount. Kasi across the board po yan nung pumasok sa SPAB. Saan yung sulat?
Mr. Chair, with respect to these accounts, I believe...
No, Atty. Jong, the question is simple. Marami kayong accounts. Ginawa nyo 10 billion. Binenta nyo ng 3 billion. Sinlash nyo ng 70% ang lahat ng utang. Tama po ba?
The recovery under the bulk sale was around 42%.
So 42%. So 60% discount. So there was a gain. Kung ang dati kang utang, 100 piso, naging 60 pesos na lang. 40 pesos na lang.
But that's on the transfer to the...
I agree, Atty. Jong. All I'm saying is, ang original utang sa inyo, 100 pesos. Ang kinita ninyo, 40 pesos na lang. Tama po ba?
On the bulk, Mr. Chair, but there was a specific price allocation.
Atty. Jong, please do not confuse yourself. Yung 100 piso dapat kinolekta nyo yun Pera nyo yun. Tama po?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, binenta nyo na lang ng 40 pesos. Tama po?
On the total bulk sale.
Yes, total
Mr.
bank sale. So lahat na nagkautang, nagka-discount na 60%. Yung umutang mismo, well, assume na natin na yung one company had 100 pesos, binenta, 60% discount siya. Tama po ba?
But that's the discount on the PI transfer to the SP.
Exactly.
Mr. Chair.
Exactly. So, what I'm saying, Mr. Chair, is this. Value judgment po yun. Hindi ko sinasabing illegal yun. Kasi lahat naman ng bangko dumaan po sa SPAB. Ang point ko lang, Yung tinanong ko kanina about the collateral, bago pa pumasok na SPAB yan, walang collateral yan. Kaya wala din kayo makukolekta in the first place. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Well noted. Next to interpolate is the Honorable John Ray Tiangco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations again on your appointment. Just a few questions. The loan from these companies, dahil malalaking kumpanya po ito, no? Usually, when they expand, they actually take a syndicated loan. Tama po ba? So itong mga utang po ba ng mga kumpanya to, mga ibang kumpanya, ay may umutang rin ba kasabay dun sa mga ibang bangko?
Yes, Mr. Chair, as contained in the position paper submitted to the committee, the Central CATV loan is a syndicated term loan, as well as the one granted to Bayantel. It's also a syndicated term loan along with other banks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. So that's why I was asking because gusto rin natin malaman yung performance or ay nangyari dun sa loans dun sa ibang bangko na private. Nabenta rin ba yung mga loans na to na hindi nabayaran sa mga SPAB? Sino kayang I'm not sure if DBP can answer this. Kasi yung concern po natin, syempre, dahil government bank po yung DBP, naturally, dapat mas conservative po tayo. Kasi pera ng bayan po yan. And from my experience, pag nagpapaloan yung DBP, lalo na sa mga LGUs, kailangan yung collateral mo, halos sigurado. In fact, ang collateral mo dyan, yung IRA. So siguradong bayad yung DBP. So ano yung kino-compare po natin? Paano ba to? Yung hindi nabayaran sa DBP, ano nangyari dun sa mga loans rin dun sa 2 or 3 different banks with the same companies?
We regret, Your Honor, that we do not have information on the other banks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, maybe BSP?
At this point, Mr. Chair, we also do not have information, despite the fact that Attorney Adyong represents that it is a syndicated loan.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think this is very important because we have to find out kung kanina tinatanong po natin ano yung mga collateral na binigay sa DBP, hindi natin masagot. Ano naman yung collateral na binigay rin doon sa mga ibang bangko na yun? Kasi baka mami, mas maganda yung collateral doon sa mga ibang bangko na yun kaysa dito sa loans po na to. So sa tingin ko, hindi ko lang paano natin makukuha yung information na yun, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Due process.
Think for would we know which banks are part of the syndicated loan?
Sir, Bayantel is a syndicated term loan with Metrobank, UCPB, Asian
Sorry,
Bank,
Metro Bank.
UCPB, Asian Bank, China Bank, and Security Bank, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Based on our records.
Mr. Chair.
May we direct that you answer the queries on the next hearing of the Honorable Tiangco on the components of this syndicated loan on this transaction? May we direct DBP to be well versed next time?
Mr. Chair, we've already provided the other banks, which are part of the syndicate, on the loan of Bayantel as to how these loans were treated.
Honorable
with the
Tiangco,
other
do you
banks.
request that we to invite those banks?
Well, or if BSP has the
Can you make a motion
record.
to
Yeah, I
invite?
move that we invite the other banks, part of the syndicate.
Second, Comsec, may we invite those banks as written who gave syndicated loans to the Lopez companies in the next hearing? Okay, Honorable Tiangco, do you have any questions?
That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Before we move to the next interpellator, I'd like to clarify an issue earlier on the request of the subpoena duces tecum of the Honorable Defensor. We just followed the rule book of the House of Representatives that we give reasonable time and request formally the documents first before any subpoena is issued. So we did the right thing. We followed the rule book to request formally. We are now requesting formally, and we will email you after this hearing to DBP and to B and the Lopez Group most especially. We will
Yes.
send formal request, Honorable Defensor.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree. Mr. Chairman, in the case of DBP, the COMSEC can bear me out. We have already written them, and in fact, there was a motion for them. So the subpoena to Tecum was already issued, well, at least by the committee, not yet signed by the Speaker. Yung po sa BSP at saka po yung iba pa, wala po talaga. But in the case of DBP, we have already exhausted all the processes.
But we agreed earlier that we will give them 1 month. Yes, thank you.
Mr.
Next,
Chairman,
yes, Honorable Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza, sir.
thank you. Again, let me reiterate my position. Unless a case filed before this committee, or for that matter, any committee in Congress, does not carry any documents except an allegation, I would frown about it and reconsider whether we should even take it up or not. Otherwise, he may want to investigate allegations of anomalies during the Quirino time, even the Magsaysay time, and charges of anomalies in government. Kung wala tayong dalang dokumento at prueba, it's unfair for us to even prosecute or question or even insinuate wrongdoings on existing officers of this institution because they had nothing to do with it. They don't even know anything about it. And in the meanwhile, we will be wasting very precious time of the 18th Congress. With that, I am not pursuing my position, but I made it very clear. If this committee hearing will not get any document from those who are alleging wrongdoing, not from the agencies, because that is fishing for evidence. I would call it as such. Kung wala po sila may papakita, in the next meetings, I will move for termination.
Well noted,
Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Speaker. Next to,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
Member of BSP, if I may,
Attorney Gube.
yes, sir. Sir, if I may just qualify the statements I made earlier and which was summarized by Congressman Defensor. Sir, the subject of the discussion on the COE are 4 accounts.
Yes.
That's Maynilad, Benpres, CATV, and Bayantel. I mentioned earlier that we issued a COE for Bayantel,
Yes.
but for the rest there is none.
But is it legal to proceed without a COE?
Yes, sir. It appears that Attorney Adyong is claiming po that for purposes of tax incentives, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is illegal. Sir, with your indulgence, if I may continue, DBP is claiming that Central CATV and Philhome Cable, Philippine Home Cable, are one and the same. Then that would be perhaps one of the things that we will go back to.
Yes.
Because if based on the representation, they are one and the same, we have to look back to the COE that we have issued, if there is indeed a COE for Philippine Home
Okay,
Cable.
please do before
Yes,
the next hearing. Thank you,
Yes, po.
Attorney Cube. Next to ask is the Honorable MCAS. But before he proceeds, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of Representative and Deputy Majority Leader Tyrone Nagabas. So, Representative MCAS, please proceed with your interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Good morning to everyone. I would like to direct my questions to DBP. Under the Special Purpose Vehicle Act, financial institution may condone or write off non-performing assets for liquidity creations. How are non-performing assets determined and classified as against performing assets?
Mr. Chair, the law defines the term non-performing assets, and The term refers to accounts that have remained unpaid for at least 180 days from the time they became past due or any of the events of default has occurred, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Who determines and authorizes the writing off of non-performing loans? In this case, who authorized and executed the condonation of 1.6 billion?
Mr. Chair, if we may repeat our position, there was no write-off nor condonation. What happened was a transfer or sale of accounts made to Philippine Investment 1 and Philippine Investment 2, Mr. Chair. So there was no write-off, Mr. Chair. With respect to eligibility to the benefits and the tax incentives and privileges under the SPV Act, the BSP is required to issue certificates of eligibility, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. I'm now clarified.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Honorable Chanco, if I may just quickly interject, please proceed. Yes. Attorney Jong, I'm reading now the law of the SPV. This is the RA 9182. Ang klaro po dito sa batas that the regulatory agency shall issue a certificate of eligibility bago nyo matransfer the FI or the financial institution, kailangan ko may clearance ng regulatory body, in this particular case, BSP. Klarong-klaro, if I may read the exact provision of this law, transfer of assets to SPV. The transfer of NPAs, non-performing assets, from an FI, this is section 12B, to an SPV shall be subject to prior certification of eligibility as NPA by the appropriate regulatory authority having jurisdiction over its operations. In this case, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, I'm sorry, Attorney Jong, hindi nyo po ito kasalanan, pero you're the legal. Parang sinasabi nyo, pwede.
If I may explain, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please.
In order for a financial institution to avail of the benefits under the SPV law, an account that is transferred should be covered by a certificate of eligibility issued by the BSP. However, financial institutions like DBP under the law may still transfer credits and receivables to other entities, but this time without the benefit that the tax incentives and privileges under the SPV law. And to do that, Mr. Chair, we do not have to get a certificate.
No. Attorney Jong, sorry for this kasi ang sinasabi nito from the institution to the SPAV. Di po ba? So the SPAV law is the basis, 9182. Di ba? Kundi, ang sinasabi mo kasi sa akin, pwede kayong mag-firehouse sale, pwede kayong magbenta at any time. Ito nga po yung SPAV Bago nyo ipinasok sa SPAV, dun sa special purpose vehicle, dapat nagkaroon kayo ng certificate of eligibility. Whether you avail, walang sinabi dito na qualification. Bago ka mag-transfer, sabi niya, the regulatory agency should approve it first.
Yes, sir. But the asset sale and purchase agreement executed between DBP and Lehman Brothers included other accounts not SPV eligible. And our basis for that, Mr. Chair, would be the civil code, which allows assignments of receivables.
No. Attorney Jong,
Yes.
rewind tayo. Ginawa lang yung SPAV law in 2. So doon ka lang pwedeng pumunta sa SPAV, di po ba?
Yes, sir. But we can, the bank and other financial institutions may still transfer receivables po, even without the benefit of the tax incentives under the SPAV Act. Sir, in other words, there are two types of accounts transferred. One are those SPV eligible, covered by COE from the BSP, and then another type of account transferred are those non-eligible. Wala pong COE.
Any given time, pwede ka magpunta sa BSP for even the non-SPAV. You have to inform the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas for the asset sale.
No, Mr. Chair, we do not have to get clearance from the BSP to transfer assets.
No, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, you were out earlier. But I was just saying on the provision of the SPAB law na any transfer should have a certificate of eligibility. In this case, wala po nga po yung mga binanggit kong agencies. Ang assertion ni Atty. Adjong, hindi pwede naman kasi hindi naman namin kukunin yung mga exemptions. Pero sabi ko, at some point, kailangan may approval pa rin ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas because that is, in fact, in our particular case, assets of the Philippine government. Hindi lang po yun kasi Bangko Financial Institution po yan na pag-aari ng gobyerno. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify.
Yes, let's for further discussion on the next hearing.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Ebcas, any follow-up? Representative Ebcas? And tapos na siya. Representative Joe Jimenez for the second round.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just to perhaps take off where Cong Defensor started. I'd like to get the position of the BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Mr. Chairman, as to the statement made just earlier by the lady, by Attorney Adjong, that there is no need for a clearance by from the BSP on transactions where SPB law is not applicable. May we get the opinion of the Bangko Sentral on the matter, Mr. Chair?
Attorney Cube, please respond.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I may just go back a bit on the procedure, the bank or the applicant bank must give us a master list of all the NPAs they would like to enroll for the issuance of a COE of the BSP, by the BSP. And so based on that master list, we check on the eligibility if it has